In yesterday's video, we went over the likelihood of Bitcoin to come down somewhere around 56,000 bucks and then play out a bit of a bounce. And that is where I've woken up today after sleeping basically 99% of the last 24 hours. Starting to feel a little bit better, which is good, but still got a long ways left to go. Massively appreciate all of the well wishes. And in today's video, I'm going to be giving back by offering another life hack at the end of this one. This one, very, very powerful, very, very potent, especially if you I don't know, if you find yourself out, not in a house or something like that. Anyways, yes. We can just jump right in this one. Again, probably going to be on the short and sweet side, but here's where we left off yesterday. We were looking at a likely move down somewhere around the median on the daily HPDR. We have gotten that on that move down to basically very low, 56,000 bucks. And what this would imply from here is that if Bitcoin is going to salvage itself, we really don't expect Bitcoin to close below yesterday's wick low. If that does start to happen, this you have trend to the downside in favor of pretty much most higher term timeframes except for a monthly, and that would probably just be follow through anyways. And you could probably expect a range to play out between about very low 50s and 55,000 bucks if that were to occur. But as I went over in yesterday's video, I still do think my personal opinion is that Bitcoin will likely pull through here. You'll probably see some, like this. And we've already done the first sort of step of that. So the real question is, what's next? And if this is going to salvage itself, when will this likely to happen? Probably coming into next week. Speaking of the weekly, we do have CME weekly right here. And this one's going to be closing later today, of course. We have a rejection of the median to the upside and basically rejection of the 38.2 level to the downside. I suspect that coming into next week, this is going to start to, what's the word that I'm looking for, contract the range between those two, probably between about 60,000 bucks to the upside versus about probably yesterday's low, 56,000 bucks to the downside. And basically whichever way that we see Bitcoin break from that range is likely going to be the next major direction. In this case, I still do think that hopium is alive for the boolaws here, as we'll go over a little bit later. But do be aware that if Bitcoin really starts to close below yesterday's wick low, this is a trend, and the trend is your friend at that point. And would have to be looking lower overall. Moving into some daily statistics, we do see that Friday has a slight favor in terms of negative closures, losing about just over 53% of all Fridays. I should say all Fridays, not all Fridays, but all Fridays since 2024 began. 53% of those, or just over 53% of those, have closed negatively. Anyways, of those negative closing Fridays, it has produced an average negative return of 2.41% versus the average positive return for the positive closing Fridays, which was about 2.25%. So looking at that in terms of price action to the downside, that would put Bitcoin basically at yesterday's wick low. Again, coming back down to yesterday's wick low is not an issue. Closing below yesterday's wick low is definitely an issue. And of course, the upside 2.25% is we've actually almost already seen that move. That would be just below 59,000 bucks, of which Bitcoin is, Bitcoin already kind of played out a nice wick to the upside to start off today, kind of close to that number. So it doesn't really do too much for us. Probably Bitcoin closed somewhere around here if I had to guess, and that is going to be obviously better for the boolaws. But still, if we're going to see this thing turn around, it's probably unlikely to happen today. If it's going to happen, we do see it very likely happen early into next week. Again, something like this with the LARP lines, comes down. We've already gotten that move, obviously, then pops back up very specifically back above Thursday's high from the 8th of August. If it does something like that, it's in the clear, all good. This is all one massive bear trap. Very likely Bitcoin is going to run towards 67,000 bucks kind of quickly after that. And, you should just be generally looking for this mark to go up and to the right. But until that happens, do be aware, the trend is starting to set in, on a lot of these higher term timeframes. And if Bitcoin does, close below yesterday's low, I would just be looking at this whole last segment as yet the next lower high in a series of lower highs, basically since March, which is not good for the boolaws. Anyways, moving on from there, also just to represent the case for downside, I guess as strongly as possible. The 5-day time frame is still showing downside momentum, also playing out one of these long-term regressions coming in from the highs of March, and that remains to the downside as long as Bitcoin's below 62,500. This one's not closing tonight; it is closing tomorrow night. Just by the way, but basically, as long as Bitcoin's or not Bitcoin, but as long as the 5-day stochastic oscillator is living below these, this regression, I would look at that as an indication that. Not a reversal yet. So yes, do be aware of that. That is still working against the boo laws right here. Going over to the daily time frame, we do see that momentum will likely remain to the upside as long as Bitcoin's above $56,000 today. But again, $56,000. Bitcoin closed below there, you're going to see momentum turn down as well. Basically confirming continuation of trend. I mean, that's why I do want to kind of sound out a bit of a warning here. Like, if Bitcoin is bearish, you do expect down from here, or you should expect down from here, really. If Bitcoin is bullish, you should expect kind of a bit of a sideways lull, and then into next week, pop back above, what was it, like $62,500 basically. But for right now, this is still on the positive side, but it's a long day left to go. And then of course we have the weekly stochastic oscillator, which is still actually positioned to the upside as long as Bitcoin's above, again, $56,000. So 56, very, very important to avoid any sort of, major downside displeasures, I suppose in the short term, kind of coming into the end of August here and likely beginning of September. So anyways, moving on from there, I do want to once again go over just, this one condition that as long as it's not met, it's just not even worth calling any sort of reversal here. So the earliest sort of indication that we could see reversal is the same thing as what we spoke about yesterday, but I need to see the daily close above that red moving average, just a 5 exponential moving average at minimum to even consider like, hey, this might be reversing as of right now. And that is currently at 58,700. If Bitcoin does close above that number, then we do have these statistics over here to be aware of, relevant to that setup, which is about a 1 1/3 chance that we do see a pretty sizable move to the upside, into the double, like into some good double digits right there. But until that happens, well, until that happens, there's just no threat of that move at all. So, if Bitcoin is going to reverse here, a good first step today or perhaps over this weekend would be to see a closure above, again, 58,700. Very, very important right there on spot price action. Anyways, last things that I kind of leave you with as well is that as we do come into the end of this weekly here, one of the other things that does still make me more optimistic, especially for Bitcoin and I guess by extension cryptocurrency, is just traditional markets. This was a lot easier of a call of a major low, which we looked at last week, Tuesday, not obviously Monday, but Tuesday said, hey, this is probably a low. And price action has been pretty nice on this one since. Of course, as long as this is not breaking down, it's probably not super wise to get like super bearish on crypto or on Bitcoin. And while this is unlikely to do anything super significant today, it'll be very revealing coming into next week if things can maintain for Nasdaq futures, as long as it's above about 19,200 or 250. As long as it's above there, this does look like it is actually probably going to work its way sideways and up from here. But yeah, as of right now, still looks like yet another higher low in a series of higher lows that have been going on basically since, October of 2022. So not a humongous issue right there. SPY futures, same shit, basically, a little bit stronger actually, if anything. In fact, if SPY futures even trade above, July 29th highs, $5,600. I mean, kind of have to be looking for this one to probably retest highs before anything else. Kind of crazy to say, but especially after like last week's total pandemonium, is like the 1 day bear market. But do keep your eyes on this one as well. As long as these two are looking healthy over here, I do think that there is hoping for Bitcoin in the background. And again, Bitcoin is not necessarily broken down just yet. The move that we looked at for the past couple of days here was expected. What comes next is the hard part, honestly. Like the last couple of days, that was quote unquote the easy part. Not that you should ever say easy, but that was the easier part. This next part is hard because it's it's more like just have to see what happens rather than have like a strong probabilistic setup of what is happening. Anyways, yeah, I think that's going to do it for today. Again, keep your eyes on those numbers. No threat of a reversal as long as Bitcoin's below, again, that daily 5. Definitely no threat of a reversal if Bitcoin does come down below and close below 56,000 bucks. That's actually rather concerning, especially for the weekly. And well, I guess we'll know by tomorrow's video if that's happening or not. Anyways, thanks for sticking with me through this whole time. Now it is time to give me back. Now it is time to give me back. No, now it is time for me to give back to you. A little bit of a life hack here. We showed this one in a prior live stream, but you know what? I think a lot of people miss this one, and it's a very important one. Very, very valuable as well. No matter where you might find yourself at, if you're outside doing, outdoorsy type shit, you probably run into one of these, a porta potty, and I'll just let the video play for itself.
Here's a life hack for when you have to use a porta potty. A lot of people don't know this, but when you go inside, you don't actually have to lift up the seat in order to pee. You can just go everywhere and it doesn't matter. If you've got a life hack you'd like to share, drop it in the comments. I'd love to hear from you.